Friends, we are here to talk all about foreign language learning in our homeschools. Now, it's that time of night where I start turning into a pumpkin, but I'm going to do my best here to hit all the right buttons. Okay, so I'm going to invite Adelaide from Talkbox Mom to join us, and I'm so looking forward on this topic. If you are just joining in, I would love for you to come in and tell me some of your struggles or joys with homeschooling foreign language. Hello, Adelaide. Good to see you.
Hi, Amy. It's so good to see you today. Oh my gosh. And I love those earrings.
Thank you. A friend of mine actually hand paints these and sells them on Etsy. So
Oh my gosh.
I'll,
Show it closer.
if
I want
anyone
to
wants.
see. I want to see more. What's the link?
Let's see. So it's J Farag Designs. So
Okay.
it's an in real life friend of mine. Yeah, it's amazing. She does some incredible artistry on these earrings.
That's super cute. I'm going to watch the replay. I'm going to write that down. I love it. They're cute.
Thank you. I am so glad you are here. And I was telling people to bring their questions about foreign language learning. I know this can be something that we all sort of like feel this desire to include in our homeschools, but it can feel overwhelming and just like we're not doing it right, whatever right means. So I'm looking forward to kind of having you clear up some of those questions tonight. But here at the beginning, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and your family and how you kind of got interested in this whole foreign language topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't know, my name is Adelaide. I have three boys. I know you know, Amy, but for anybody watching, I have three boys. So our house is nothing but nobody's sitting down doing something right the first time. That's not how it works here. So we're a lot of like, how did that fly across the room or how did that happen? So super, super fun. They're very adventurous. We have a good time together. Very sweet. And we speak multiple languages in our home, but I grew up monolingual. So I think that's always important for people to know because they're like, oh, well, you're just insert whatever, like grew up that way, gifted, whatever. No, not true. So I grew up speaking one language. And I got interested in languages when I was younger. There was a family that was my mom, she just loved helping people in the community. If she saw somebody in the community, she would help them. She would be the first person if there was, I remember at a movie theater thing, somebody had come in and was like asking people for money. And my mom just right away bought the homeless person popcorn, gave it to them. And, she's just that person. So I remember this one family and they didn't speak any English. I don't even know why they were at our house. She probably just brought them to our house because that's just how she is. And I remember the little girl, she couldn't talk to me because she didn't speak English. And so I thought, well, the language is toys at that age. So I played toys with her and built that connection. And then I was just super interested in like being able to bridge that gap, be able to like communicate with people that I can't. And when I started doing that, I realized like when you speak another language with somebody, their face changes. If it's their language, their face changes, their soul kind of opens up more. You just have more of that connection. I even saw it today. There was somebody who was there's a guy in the hall. He was being kind of smiley. So I was like, why is this guy being so smiley at this office, right? So I asked him like, oh, what office building are you working at? And he just stared at me like super blank. So then I asked him in Spanish and just his whole presence changed and he was able to talk with me and have a conversation. And I think like that's really the key to being able to speak a language, that you can connect with somebody and you can, have that moment or have that relationship, whatever it is, or have that opportunity to serve somebody. That's what it's really about. And that's what I really want for my family. And I think that's why so many of us are drawn to it. Do you agree?
Oh, definitely. I love hearing that word connection coming up because I think when we think of language learning as this subject and this checkoff box, it separates it from the real people. And our goal really is loving our neighbor, connecting with other real human beings, right? And if we think of language learning from that perspective, it changes everything. I think not only about the motivations of why we're learning, but even like how we're going to learn and what we're going to be focusing on as we learn a language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. I would love to hear what you think are some of the barriers. Like, that sounds like great. We're all like, yeah, rah, rah, let's go connect and learn languages. But then there's like real life.
Yeah.
What are you, especially for the homeschool family, what do you think are some of the barriers that kind of come between us and including foreign language learning in our home? What are some of those challenges you think we face?
Okay, well, Amy, you already like touched on exactly what it is. And you said, well, like reframing it as connection instead of a subject is like huge because when we teach our kids math, we are happy for them to learn how to add, right? So they can add things later in life. We're happy to learn for them to subtract, but we're not like, oh my gosh, they're only adding, they're not doing calculus. Why are we doing this? We're not even doing calculus. We should stop doing math. This is crazy, right? Like my kid's not even gonna go that high in math. Why would I ever do any math? Like that would be a really weird way to think about math, right?
Definitely.
But math is a language. We are happy to speak some of it or we're happy to speak a lot of it. And it depends on what we need to do. It's the same thing with foreign language. What do you need to do with it? Do you need to connect with your neighbor, right? Or do you need to have it at work and be able to work and lead an organization in that language? Lead meetings in that language. There's different levels that we need to operate in. So when we think of it more like connection and less like a subject also in another sense, then we can focus on what foreign language time actually looks like. Because this is the other big roadblock that I see families have. They don't know what it should look like in their home. They've only seen what it has looked like traditionally. Right? What was,
Right.
and I remember you had, you did some high school Spanish, right? And Latin?
Yes. Yeah, so I did Latin and Spanish. I would say I really enjoyed my Latin both in high school and college,
Yeah.
and still use that and really just really enjoy that, even though it is not a spoken language that we're connecting with, at least our present day neighbors. We're connecting with people in the past. But yeah, my Spanish definitely was not a very effective study. I definitely passed and got my A's and couldn't actually talk to someone in a conversation now. And I find that really sad.
Yes. Okay. So what that tells me about you is that you are really good at logic. That just, it tells me about, because you really like Latin, you really like applying it, and you're able to get A's in Spanish. Like you get the game, you get how to do it, but then you weren't taught how to use Spanish, right? You were taught on how, you were taught about how Spanish works, but not how to use it. And so that's where a lot of people get stuck. And so that's the model. So it feels really overwhelming when you go to do a foreign language because you have the wrong map. It's like me giving you a map of Paris, but I drop you in Los Angeles and I tell you to go find a cafe, right? You're going to be so overwhelmed. Nothing makes sense. You're not doing the right thing. So you need the right map. And as moms, we already have the map. We know that we taught our kids English, right? By talking to them, using the language. And our kids became very conversational before they could ever read and write. And when we teach a language, because that's how we truly learn languages, that's the way we should start. We should start by using the language together. And so that's what we do with families. We help them to use the language together because that's really how you learn it. And it lays this foundation. So whether you want to learn a language to serve your neighbor or you want to learn a language to use it at work, you're prepared because you have that foundation that's taught in your home. And as parents, we are so qualified to teach a language to our kids because we are in the best position to teach a language. We have all the skills, we have all the opportunities throughout our day. We just need the tools to do it. And that's why I created TalkBox.mom, because I saw so many moms that wanted to connect and wanted to serve, and they had the exact skills. You know, we are the most successful language teachers, but they didn't have the tools. And so we created this roadmap, this proven roadmap that helps you exponentially explode and learn a language through our program by taking these simple moments in your life and adding language to them. And then you can start being able to use it.
I love that perspective. And I think like in the home, it's such a safe place. And I think I saw this in maybe the introduction to the phrasebook that I have, or maybe it was on your website, but you brought up the example of when you have a small toddler or child who asks for something, they don't say banana, they say nana. You're not like, oh, I can't believe you didn't say it all the way right. No, you can't have a banana until you say banana, right? We
Yeah.
were like, oh, would you like a banana? We respond to the child where they are and we help them grow, but it's in a very loving, nurturing kind of point of view. And I think when we think of language learning in that context, it seems like a much safer place to make mistakes, even as grown-ups, right? If we don't speak the language ourselves. And that kind of
Absolutely.
leads me to my next question, because I know for myself, this is just a real problem I can have sometimes in my homeschool and life in general, is this sort of all or nothing approach, where it's like either we're going to do this big, grand, glorious project, or we might as well not do anything at all. What are some ways that maybe that hampers us in our language learning? And then are there some just simple strategies or tips you could give for doing just a little thing for our language learning?
Yeah, this all or nothing mentality, it is really hard because when you think, yes, I want to speak a language, sometimes that translates into I want to speak the whole language perfectly right when I start. Right? And you have to think back on, how you learned your first language. It actually took you a couple of years. Like when you're a 3-year-old, they can understand things, they can say things back. Maybe they're still developing their pronunciation. As you're hitting 4, right, it's getting even better. And then later on, you do the reading and the writing. And so really you want to focus on what's going to be effective to lay the foundation. And it's so important that just knowing that when you focus on these small and simple things, that they really add up. So what we do is we have families use a phrase, right? And they add this phrase to their life. And we have specific phrases chosen throughout our boxes to help you learn faster. But you add this one phrase into your life, and then you add in another phrase. And then with those 2 phrases, you can also say even more phrases because they can be mixed and matched. And there's just so much growth in that. So you want to focus on just using the language with your family, and that's the all. Like instead of trying to do everything, the thing that matters is just using those phrases, adding that on, and continuing in that way, and then going back and reviewing and using those phrases. Because really, when you go and you talk to somebody, you meet them, you're prepared. Like there's things that you can say and you can work through, and you don't have to have everything perfect to be able to do that. So this all or nothing approach, I mean, it's great to look back at like the math example I gave, right? You're not going to do all of math all at once. You're going to do a little bit and add that in. And so it's just resetting your expectations to be, our goal is to use the language together, right? And then as you continue on, you use more and more of the language.
I love that. Yeah. So I've been breaking free of my own issues this spring. My high school daughter has for a long time has longed. I was going to use long in both senses. That was going to be confusing. She has longed to learn French. And so actually she started taking French this year with some other friends and a lady who speaks French fluently, although she's not a native speaker. And that had never been like a language that I was super motivated to learn, but I was kind of like, I don't right now. I can't make the commitment to do some sort of huge, big, let's all jump in and learn French alongside of Emma. But I was like, what if we just tried to include like a new phrase or 2 every week? We could just little by little do that like incremental approach, right? It would be at least something. It would be better than nothing.
Yes, some is better than none. Yes.
Exactly. And it would be something that would be community within our family, because that's what she's working on, but also a way to gradually learn this other language. So it's been really fun to sort of, the kids have helped me think of, okay, what are some things we say a lot, and let's look up in the phrase book, like let's look up how to say, let's read a book together because we say that a lot. Or did you wash your hands? That was our new one this week. They were like, we say that a lot. We should probably learn that one in French.
Yeah, I love
So
how real it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like amazing to think, oh, this is something we're saying already. It doesn't take that much more effort to just practice learning it in another language. So kind of fun.
I really love that. And that's just speaks to how simple it is, right? Like you choose your phrase, you're like, okay, I'm going to add that. I want to say that. But when you've done those 2 phrases, like the phrases that you did you wash your hands? right? In that you're learning to use the past tense in French, right? Naturally, when you're talking to somebody. What was the other phrase? Did you wash your hands? What was the other one?
Shall we? I think it's something like, let's read a
Read
book
book.
together. Or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
and that's a fun phrase in French because they have like two ways to say it, like everybody let's do it, or would you like, it's just there's interesting things that you're learning in the conversation of it. And it also the other thing I love about that is in like a formal French class, you wouldn't learn how to say like let's do that. You would learn how to write it. And so when you write how you speak in French, French people are like kind of like it's awkward to them. And they're like, oh, let's just speak English. This is weird. But you're speaking like a native speaker. So it's just really nice. So the things that you're learning. So as you add in those phrases, you're gaining fluency in hearing and listening and conversation all at once. So it feels so simple, right? Like two phrases, but the amount of things that you're learning from doing those phrases is just building up and making it so that you can learn so much more than if you were in a book studying, which for you and me, I think studying in a book is easy for us because you like Latin. You know what I mean? This kind of feels like the hard part. And by making it so simple and so easy to do on a weekly, daily basis, it kind of feels easy, but it's doing so much for us. So I just love how you spoke to the simplicity of it.
Yeah. It's definitely challenging a different part of my brain, but it's getting me really excited and everyone's enjoying it. So that's good.
Yeah. Did you think, because you said like I didn't think of us all doing French. Like when you thought of that before, did you feel kind of uncomfortable and now do you feel different, or like how was that?
I think what I had in my head before is that if I was like, we're going to, do French, it was going to be something I was going to have to somehow find an extra multiple hours a week to
Oh,
fit into our already busy schedule with 5 kids and, jobs inside and outside the home and just a full life. And so it felt overwhelming to think about adding one more thing into the schedule. And so kind of changing it around in my head and thinking, well, instead, let me just think about doing a few phrases here and there. And it doesn't have to be this huge thing. Let's start small. And then with the goal that we can build on that in the future, but just starting small, I think felt more doable to me. I think before it had just felt like overwhelming, like it
yeah.
was going to be too much. And I would have just said, no, I just can't do it. It was easier to just say no because it felt overwhelming.
Yes,
But
I love that. I remember when I was in Berlin. This is before TalkBox.mom. I was a single woman in Berlin and I was in a German language class and I was working so hard. I was trying to memorize all the verbs, memorize all the vocab, just keep up with the class because I was in this like more advanced class, just trying to do it. And then there was this guy, I can't think of his name, like Oslo or something, but he was like this European guy who was a DJ and he was in the class and it was so easy for him. And I'm like, you're just out partying and DJing and I'm working so hard. Like, how is he learning so much? And he's like, just talking to my friends. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's so true. You can pass up what you think you're buckling in and you're spending all these hours, but when you just do these lighter things, you actually learn even faster because they are more effective. That was one of the first times when I was like, I think I'm doing this wrong.
maybe there's a better way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's sort of talking about like how we do this, but then there kind of gets to be this point where we're like, okay, well, which language do I even choose? I mean, for me, my teenage daughter kind of chose it for us, right? And we're just not doubling the work for now. We're just going along with her. But I mean, there's so many amazing languages we could learn. How is a homeschool family supposed to just pick one? How do we decide which one to start?
Yeah, I mean, you could be coming from two places. You could be like, I don't know what one to do. I've seen people who are just like, what's a good language? Like they don't have one in mind. Just kind of what's a good language? And then they'll meet families who are like, I gotta learn them all. Like, where am I gonna start? How am I gonna do this? I'm somebody who's like, where are we gonna start? But I can understand the other perspective of what should we do. So it's really individual for your family. It's something that I think it should be, taken with care because you're actually going to use the language. And so there's amount of consulting with your family that should happen. And also for our family. And if, others who are watching are religious, praying, right? Thinking that through. really important. So there's 3 questions I've walked through with my family. The first question would be like, what language would change, like help us in our community, like change our circumstances right now, or connect with family, just like a now thing. So if there was a neighbor that you wanted to reach out to, if there was family you wanted to talk to, that the language there, that'd be really helpful. The second thing to look at is if there's just a language that would help your future. So we have kids in our program who are ballet dancers who are learning Russian, right? That's an important language for them for their future. Or they're learning Italian and they're singers, or they are doing engineering and so they want to learn either Spanish or German or Mandarin, you know, or doing business, they want to do Mandarin. So there's like some key that they want to accomplish, something that will help them get there by doing the language. And then the third one is just this, like one that just calls to your heart. There's a language that calls to your heart. That's another thing that you should consider, because that might trump the logic. Even though I love logic, sometimes there's just a language that's calling to you and you need to do it. So when you consider those things and how your kids feel, you can kind of talk through that and then decide based on those things. Now, sometimes it happens that kids want to do different languages. So you can either start with one and be like, let's start with this one. And then as we do it, we can add on another. We do have one mom. We have a lot of moms who are doing multiple languages, but one mom that comes to my mind right now, her kids wanted to do different languages. And so she is doing one language with one child and another language with the other child. But it makes her happy. It makes her happy.
That's amazing.
Our rule is that you choose whatever doesn't overwhelm you as the mom, right? Because you're doing it with your kids. So if you're like, hey guys, I love this idea. I love Spanish and French. Let's start with French, you know, and then let's add in Spanish. So you can decide that way. If you're still like, I think all languages are great, I don't know, look at where you live. Look at how it can help you. So maybe you're in an area where like a lot of Spanish is spoken. That might be great. But then you might have a child who's like, everybody does Spanish. I don't want to do Spanish. You don't want that fight in your life. What do they want to do? So,
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to consult to get there. So we started doing, we started with Portuguese, and then we did German and Spanish, and my kids, they love German so much. It's harder to get them to do Spanish than it is to do German. Like they'll just do German, like they'll just speak in German all the time. If I speak in Spanish, like sometimes I have to remind them to speak back in Spanish. Not for German, they love it, but we still do it because it's important. My husband's family, they all speak Spanish. It's important, we're gonna do it. So sometimes it's also just being like, this is important to me. And then my kids, you know, go along with that because I'm a person too.
That's right. Mothers are born persons too. Last year, when my last podcast season, I interviewed Gina Muncie. She's at Oaxaca Born here on Instagram. And she was talking, her daughter has been learning Chinese for many years now. And she talked about how people will be like, well, why did she want to do that? Or maybe she should learn something more practical. And that was just a language that her daughter was passionate about from a very young age. And she shared a story about how her dad had gone to his high school guidance counselor and like gotten out of a Spanish class because he was like, I'm never going to use this. I don't need this. And then through a set of circumstances, where life ended up leading him, he ended up being in a Spanish-speaking country, living there for multiple years and having to take language lessons. So her point was just like, you never know where God is going to have you and your children with these languages. You never know. So don't write off a language just because you don't immediately see that used right in front of you. You never know how that language will end up being used in the future. Yeah. I thought that was a really good perspective to have.
I absolutely agree. I'll hear from parents like, oh, my child, they really want to do this language, but Japanese or whatever, they're like, I don't know. But it's always whatever language you choose is going to open up opportunities for you. It's just going to happen. You're going to meet people. They're going to be put in your path. There's going to be opportunities maybe even at work that will come up, and then you'll be able to be the person who does that. And so that's why it's so important when a language speaks to your heart. That third question, it kind of trumps the logic, but there's something more there than meets the eye. And so that's why it's so important to see that, and then write that down so you remember why you're doing it.
Yes, you have your why. You're like, why did we do this? You're like, okay, yes, I remember now.
Yeah.
Well, we've touched on this a little bit already, but I would love for you to take a little bit of time just to talk a little bit about TalkBox Mom and what sets it apart from other language programs. Like, what is it? How is it unique? And how does it sort of meld all of these ideas that we've been talking about tonight?
Yeah, Talkbox.mom is it's really for families who want to be able to use a language. And it's for families who want to add the language into their life as you're going about everyday things so that when those opportunities come up, you can use the language. So for me, Talkbox.mom is really it's a lifestyle, right? You have these phrases, you start using them in your life, you start becoming a bilingual family. Your kids will ask you maybe to go outside or play video games in the language. It starts becoming a part of who you are. Whereas other language programs, they might be something that you play in an app and then you put down. Or it might be a verb you conjugate on a piece of paper, but it doesn't truly become who you are and who your family is. Right? And so Talkbox.mom is this journey, and it's a supportive journey. We have a wonderful community of families who are also adding languages to their lives, doing that every day, choosing their phrases, practicing, being brave, having funny moments, just having a good time. And so you have that support system as well to see those families. Talkbox.mom, I made it so that, families who have lots going on, lots of kids, all those kind of things, they can do it and you can feel successful as you do it because it's so simple, but it gives you the results you want, right? You're signing up for the program because you truly want to use the language. You want to see that happen. We're all about making sure that happens for your family. So it's very different in the way where other things you might sign up for and you're like, I hope it works. Talk about some mom, no, you're going to use the language because that's what it's about. And that's why, so many people say that it's worth its weight in gold because you get what you want. You get what you come for to be able to use the language. How it's set up to get it is we have boxes, and each box is a different part of the roadmap. And each box has a different fluency approach to help your family, whether it is to get consistent, to get out of your head, if you're thinking in your head too much about the language or being too self-conscious, to ramp up the speed in which you can think and use the language. We have these different boxes that cover different topics in your home life with your family, so you can continue to add the language. We have our phrasebook also, which you talked about. They go along great together. The phrasebook's fluency approach is to find phrases that you want to say, need to say, and say all the time and add that to your life. And then the box's fluency approach complements that. So you can really be moving forward. You don't have to do everything from your first box. You can pick the things that you want to start with and then move forward and then come back. And when you review, you learn even faster. So most families will spend 1 to 3 months on a box, and you decide. You're in control. It's set up as a subscription, Amy, but not a scary subscription. We want to ship it when you're ready, but we also want it to go in the right order. So you get to choose how often you want your boxes to come. You can also pause and have your next box come whenever you want. It doesn't come off pause unless you do it. It's made for families, especially families who want to travel. So we're very mindful of that. And you always get a reminder email before you're charged, if your email provider provides for that your next box is being packed, so that you know that, because we really want that you're super excited when your next box is coming and your kids are excited to move on to another topic, and you can always circle back to the other boxes. So, and some families, they might take a year on a box, right? We recommend 1 to 3 years. I see Rachel Moore just joined here. She's been doing Talkbox.mom for 2 years now, and her family's on their 4th box. So they're going at a slower pace, and I always tell her that's just fine. That's really good. And her kids, I've seen it on her wall in videos, they have certificates from their language immersion school. So her kids are language immersion school from doing their Spanish so well, and she's adding that in her home. So you decide. Each box is $80. Now, I know some people are like, $80? Like, that seems like so much. But you are getting more out of it than like a $350 semester course that you're doing. We have families who have bachelor's degrees in a language, and they say they've learned more in the first 4 boxes of usable Spanish than they did in their whole degree. So it's really worth it. It's worth it. And you can start with one. You don't have to get another. You're not obligated. And make sure it's worth it for your family. But once you do it, you're like, whoa, like it's less expensive than tutoring. If you want to do tutoring too, you can, but it's less expensive. It is the most cost-effective way to have this high immersion experience. And it is worth it. Like when you do it, it's amazing because you're talking.
And I love how customizable that sounds, you know, that it's not like everyone has to fit into the same schedule. It is going to come every 2 months and you're going to feel depressed because you haven't caught up with where you should be. I love that it can meet every family, each unique family where they are. I think that's so important. And that's one of the reasons why we love homeschooling, right? That every family is unique. Seasons of life are unique. When you have a new baby, it's different than, you know, a different season. And so to be able to have a program that meets you where you are and is flexible with you is really invaluable. So
absolutely. And the best way to start is to start with your box, and then it asks you to add on the phrasebook. Absolutely do that. And Amy here has a really good coupon, so you can get $20 off your first box and book, and you should use that. You should get $20 off, and make sure this is the language program of your dreams. You can go to talkbox.mom/humility and doxology, and you can use the code humility20. If you go to talkbox.mom, also use the code humility20. You can go in either way, but use that code humility20 because then you'll get $20 off your box and book. But if you're not sure, or if your spouse is like, I don't think so, $80, are you crazy? What are you doing? Start with the phrasebook, right, Amy? The phrasebook is great. It's $35. Also has the app. Oh, I didn't explain the app. The app has all the native speaker audio.
oh, the app, wait, I have to tell you, the app is amazing. Because the app is amazing. I love it so much. Yes, it's a native. So I'm sorry, I'm just going to talk over you. Then the app is amazing. I use it in our morning time. So we'll pick our phrase, and then we listen to the native speaker break up each word individually on the phrase very slowly, and we repeat after. In this case, it's a her, and then she'll say the entire phrase together, and we try to imitate the sound of the flow of the phrase as she would say it. It's amazing. Better than me trying to follow a phonetic spelling of how to pronounce something.
Oh, no. And the phonetic spellings are hard because we don't have all those sounds in French. So, you can't without the audio. So it's so important. So, yes. And the app isn't something that you just, babysits your kids that you play in. It's something that you use with your family, just in case anybody's worried. You use it with your family to hear how things are said. So it's so fun. So you can start with the phrasebook, and you can use Humility 5 to get $5 off the phrasebook. And that's just great if you just want to get your toes wet. And then later on, you can get your box. But I recommend, if this sounds really fun, you really want to do the program, you want to start using French like Amy, then you should get the box and the book and use the code humility20. Try it for $20 off. I think you will love it. And then you'll also be in the private community, and you'll get the support you need, which is super fun. And we just love our Talkbox.mom families. They're the best.
Well, this has been such an encouraging conversation. I hope that folks who are watching now and who watch the replay are just coming away with a renewed excitement about foreign language learning, and maybe an entire mindset change. And we'll give Talkbox Mom a try. Thank you so much for chatting with me tonight. Is there anywhere else around the internet where people should follow you other than here on Instagram?
So you know what? Okay, a little more than following. I think this is good. Go and do our ball challenge. We have a free challenge. That's something that you should do. A free challenge to try out. So go to talkbox.mom/humility and doxology, then scroll down and just ask for the free starter pack. And that would be the best place to get information from us. And then later you can start getting our newsletter if you want. And that's just an amazing place to go, because we have in our starter packet challenge where in 5 minutes, you will hear your family talking and understanding the language that you're learning. You will hear your kids talking and understanding, say, French, just by playing with a ball. So I recommend going there and getting started, to try it out and to get more information from us. You can also DM us here on Instagram.
Perfect. Oh, I'm so excited. And if anyone has questions, send a DM or comment here on this live. Thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Amy. And I'm going to get those earrings. They're cute.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna send you a DM after I hit all the right buttons to save this video.
All right, perfect. See you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.